Today I wanted to talk to you about a little DIY project that my husband Dave and I did, and actually, to be accurate, he did for me, and thought that it might be something that you quilters out there would like, particularly long armors, and that is a rack for hanging the batting rolls. Of course, they're huge, right, and bulky, and they pick up lint and cat hairs and everything else, so you don't want them laying on the floor or even standing on the floor. So we devised this standing rack. So I'm going to tell you all about how we built that and where we got the materials, and we'll show you some good pictures of it. So while we wait for a couple of people to come on, a couple things. One of them is I'm fairly new to a YouTube channel, and what I need to get my own URL link that I can post in advance and that you guys can always go to the same link at is 100 subscribers. So if you're interested in these little snippets of videos, I encourage you to get to the little link below the screen. There's a subscribe button. Not only can you subscribe, but you can change your preferences in there as well, and you can actually get a notification whenever I go live. I'm going to try and do most of these episodes live so that you're able to chime in if you wish to with questions, and I can answer them on the spot, as opposed to, pre-recording them. I can still answer questions, but it's not as immediate, right? So both subscribe and update your preferences to receive notifications, and then you'll know whenever a new live comes out. My husband's just updating me on the side. He's my producer, right? So we need 37 more subscribers to reach that magic number, and then we'll get our own little URL link, which we can post in advance, and then you can always know where to find us, and it makes things much more straightforward. Meantime, I'm Susan Smith, and my business name is Stitched by Susan, so you can find me under that handle on Instagram. Facebook is one of them. We do some of our lives on there, but it's Stitched by Susan, all one word. Facebook, Pinterest, I'm there as well. I have lots of pictures of work that I've done and, of course, ideas and things that I want to share, but galleries of my work and things are there. And my website too, stitchedbysusan.com. So that's all the places that I can be found. So while we wait for a couple more people to join, I do have a little story for you. On the weekend, a couple friends and I went to a quilt show. And I know this is just like so novel. We've not been to quilt shows in 8 months? Seems crazy. But anyway, we went to a little quilt show. So I live in Spokane, Washington, but we're near to a little town that has a railway museum. Sorry, my husband's just giving me some little feedback here. I'm paying attention. Anyway, we went to this little town that has a railway museum, and in the railway museum, they hosted a quilt show over the weekend, and it was just so fun to get out with friends and admire pretty quilts. And they had just cleared out kind of the central area of the museum, and as a happy bonus for your ticket, you also got to tour through the museum. You got to have a ride on a small open train, and you got to tour some of the railway cars that are in their museum. So that was quite fun, and I've always loved old things, vintage things. So it was really fun for me to walk through the dining car and see the iron grill and the tiny, tiny refrigerator units. I mean, it makes even an airliner look kind of spacious. It is really tiny, and the little berths that you get to sleep in. Anyway, back to the quilt show. For any of you that know One Sister Designs, she lives near this small town where the quilt show was held, and so she had a booth there, so it was kind of fun to visit with Janet and see her new book that has just come out, and she had lots and lots of her quilts on display. So that was One Sister Designs, and she does the crazy quilts, like some of her books are Crazy Farm and Driving Me Crazy, and so she had lots and lots of projects there. So on to our little DIY project, and we're going to try and coordinate this with my husband putting through the pictures while I talk about them. So let's get this going. So here's a picture of the whole rack, and we've got, as you can see, 4 rolls of batting on it. They're full-size rolls. The one on the bottom is the largest that I'm aware that batting comes in, which is 120 inches wide batting, folded in half, so a 60-inch roll. So, and in case you're wondering why the black blob of batting is in there, it's because I have a spare one cut, and it's because a couple of the rolls are not kind of balanced, and so they spin, they unwind. So we've got that stuffed in there to hold them in place, and I'll keep it posted, or if one of you has a great idea for how you keep those rolls from spinning, let me know. But anyway, that's why that's tucked in there now, to keep that top roll from unspooling. But we've got these 4 rails, and we put them each 20 inches apart. So the bottom one is 20 inches from the floor up to the hanging line, and then each one is 20 inches further up from that. And we measured and figured that gives us room to put a full 30-yard roll of batting up on each one of those slots. So we spaced them out on, they're just wardrobe closet hangers. And we just got them at Walmart. I think they were about $4 a piece. So there's a pair of them for each roll of batting. And obviously, you could just do 1 or 2 rolls of batting if you don't stock several types, right? For whatever you're holding. And just as a little aside, if you do any kind of quilting, even if you only do your own things or yours and your sister's or whatever, I highly recommend looking for batting in a roll. It's probably less than half the price of buying batting, per quilt, piece by piece. So I recommend looking for that. But anyway, we use these closet hangers, and you can kind of see the end of the little metal pole that the batting is resting on. And what we used for that was electrical conduit. So it's a hollow metal tube, and it's about probably 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more than that in thickness. And so we had it cut actually at our hardware store because it comes in, must be 12-foot lengths, right, Dave? Nope, 10-foot lengths. And so we had it cut, one of them we had cut exactly in half. The other one, because half of that would be 60 inches, and I'm trying to hang a 60-inch roll of batting, right? I needed one to be a little bit longer. So we had one cut exactly in half, and we had the other cut 6 inches to one side. So we ended up with 66 inches and 54 inches. So we'll show, I think that first picture showed how some of the bat rolls are shorter, and even some of our rack apparatus is shorter at one end. We'll have a picture at the end that shows that a little more clearly. And I should explain my wall too. A studio to me it's more important to be functional than to be beautiful. And while I try and keep my sewing area as pretty as I can and have some pretty pictures and things that I love around me, what I have just off my studio, so in an adjoining room, is kind of like a storage space, and it's not finished. There's not drywall on the walls. So you're seeing that. You're seeing just the studs and the plastic. However, it was very useful when we went to hang this rack. There's no doubting where the studs are, right? We could screw right into them, and everything is squared away and sturdy. But you can see in this last photo the difference in length of the placement of our wardrobe holders, our racks. And are you able to back up, Dave? There was one picture that kind of that showed the end of one of the rails. I think you can see it there. So what we did to hold it in place, so that, because you don't want the metal rod to be able to slide or move back and forth left to right at all, right? You just want the roll of batting to roll freely around it. So on each end of that electrical conduit, we drilled a hole through it, and we just put a screw and a wing nut through and tightened that up. So when you go to replace the roll of batting, all you've got to do is unspool that wing nut, right, to lift the conduit off and slip another roll into place. So it's pretty straightforward. It's at least as easy as hanging a roll of batting underneath your long arm and trying to hoist that thing in place. I've done that for years. So this is at least that easy. So that's our DIY batting project. All that's left to do is I'm going to put probably just painter's tape on the floor. It's a concrete floor, and I'm just going to roll out a span of tape, and I'm actually going to put a measuring stick, I guess. I'm going to put measurement markings on that so that I can pull out my batting to whatever length I need and cut across it. And again, I'm lucky I've kind of got this concrete floor with seams in it. I've got, sort of a grid for my straight lines in that, so that's handy. And I chose to put my most used batting at the bottom just because that's the easiest to spool out onto the floor and cut. And that happens to be Hobbs 8020, which is my all-time favorite batting. So there you have it. That's our DIY batting rack. I'm so pleased to have it. A huge thank you to my husband for getting the idea and building it for me. It is super, super helpful and convenient. So that's my Monday morning. Of course, it's afternoon now, so that's my Monday afternoon, and it's time to get back to quilting. I will see you all on Friday morning, and this time I will be on Instagram Live. Friday morning on Instagram Live, 8:30 PST. Stitched by Susan. I will see you there. We will endeavor to every Monday morning to be on YouTube, but I'll be posting links both on Facebook and Instagram, so kind of watch. I'm sorry about the confusion. We're just sort of trying out different mediums a little bit to see which ones work best and which ones we can manage the technology for and that sort of thing. So I'll try and keep you posted where they're being held. But at this point, Monday morning on YouTube, Friday morning on Instagram. See you on Friday. Have a good week.